What a week of football we have ahead for you. Here are just some of the choice matches, some excellent ties, some significant ones as well, because in Germany, Bayern Munich with a chance to wrap up the title once again. They're taking on Werder Bremen. Barca and Ashley against Leganés. Wednesday then sees the return of the Premier League. Villa, Sheffield United, City playing host to Arsenal. It's also the Coppa Italia final as well. Napoli against Juventus. And then it's Real Madrid against Valencia. And then we wrap the whole week up with Sevilla against Barcelona, and it's Spurs against Manchester United. Craig Burley and Fjortoft with me as we look ahead to maybe one of those games in particular. Jan, which one in particular are you looking forward to?
Well, as you said, a fantastic week ahead of us, and although I'm a fan of German football as well, I'm glad that they were now joined by the other leagues. I must say that the Tottenham, Manchester United, the Mourinho against Solskjaer, that is what a great game that is, and we've seen already that Mourinho has started with his usual side shows, and then we'll see what that game will bring us. We sure will bring us some great stories, whatever happened in that game.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, yesterday you talked about those mind games. The fact that Mourinho apparently was saying that Solskjaer is very much out of his depth. It's a theory that you've had, Craig, since he was hired. This is a fascinating 9-game stretch for him, isn't it, as to whether or not he can close that gap on Chelsea and make it into the Champions League and maybe prove some of his doubters like yourself wrong.
Well, look, there's no doubt, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the job because he was a former Manchester United player rather than his resume as a manager. But that being said, before the lockdown, they were starting to find their feet. Allied to that, Tottenham were really looking as if they were running in quicksand because they were not playing well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the fortunes of these clubs start up again when this league restarts. The bottom line is they're all fighting for this top four, and it will all come out in the wash. Now, Solskjaer himself has been quite vocal about players he's got out, and some he might still want to get out, and the bad apples in the dressing room and whatnot. But it'll come down to results. Mourinho himself has been seemingly filtering out that he doesn't think Solskjaer's up for the task. I don't think Solskjaer will be too bothered about that. He'll be looking to rub Mourinho's nose in it. Mourinho couldn't get the job done himself at Man United. And it's not really his business now whether somebody else can get the job done. It's his business now to get Tottenham into that top four where Mauricio Pochettino had them.
This is time for your boy, isn't it, Jan? No more excuses. The bad apples, they're all over at Inter. Players back from injury. Rashford can play. Pogba, of course, in the lineup as well. 3 points is all that difference is to Chelsea. 9 games to go. You've got to play the likes of Spurs, Sheffield United again, and also Leicester as well. If Solskjaer doesn't get this done, you've really got to question whether or not he's the right man for the job, haven't you?
Well, who are the manager of Manchester United, if you can't put them into the top four, that is a trouble. I was there at the last Champions League game of Manchester United and Mourinho in Sevilla, and the club was dead. And what they needed at that time was someone to come in with a bit of positivity. Sometimes I think it's underestimated which manager you come after. Because if you have a kind of Mourinho manager type, and the club is like so negative, everything in and around the club was negative at that time, you needed like a guy like Solskjaer. And of course that game in Paris when they knocked out PSG, that was talking about Rashford and decisive penalty there. But they need to get into top four, and we then have to wait some weeks now to see the hearing of Manchester City if they will be in there. So maybe top 5 could be enough. But for me, it's all about Sheffield United getting in there, and then Manchester United can do their stuff. But I think Mourinho, he has a job on his hand at the moment to show that he's not a manager of yesterday. And I'm saying that quite bluntly because I saw the Champions League game against RB Leipzig. That was terrible. That was terrible to watch Julian Nagelsmann showing Mourinho what's new, modern, today football is all about.
Spurs aren't as big a club, though, as Manchester United. And people say, oh, why do you always talk so negatively about United on this show? The reason we talk about them so much is because they're such a huge club around the world. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, all of these teams are about success. We're talking about success now for Manchester United in terms of just finishing in the top 4. That's why we talk and we put the microscope so focused on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer And that's why we do it, Craig, because it's almost a trophy now for United finish top 4. And the thing is that even if he doesn't, people will say, yeah, but look, he's turning this club around. The ship's now going in the right direction. How? Where's the evidence? I don't get it.
Well, no, I think if they finish in the Europa League, there might be some questions asked, and there certainly should be. Or maybe not even in the Europa League, who knows? Listen, if he gets them into the top 4, and it is a big if because it is congested, and Sheffield United have got a game in hand, Wolves are in there, hell knows what's going to happen with Tottenham. Chelsea are still fighting. It's all still to play for. If he gets them in, he buys himself a bit more time with the board, with the owners, with Ed Woodward, where they may go, because of this pandemic and the financial implications, they may just push the boat out a little bit more. If he doesn't, there could be calls for his head, because Manchester United cannot afford to be outside of European football. That's the first step for them. The next step, and it has to come quick, is to be challenging City and Liverpool again. That's the only thing that's going to be good enough for this club. And that's a big pressure on Solskjaer. But as I said, in fairness to him, for all the criticism he's had, and I've been one of them, they were much better before this lockdown. However, that's gone now. It is the restart button, and we just don't know what we're going to get from them. And I agree with Jan about Tottenham. Tottenham, Dan, were an absolutely embarrassment to watch just before this lockdown. I mean, they went from being silky football, albeit struggling in the end under Pochettino, to that dull and boring Mourinho football. He managed to manage it in just a few months. It was damn awful, and he's got enough on his plate without talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's got enough on his plate trying to make his team at least attractive to watch, first and foremost.
Yeah, and if Ole doesn't get top 4, is his time up?
It could be, because like Craig's saying, this is a global brand, this is a global football club, and sometimes people are annoyed that we're talking about this global brand, but there are also expectation to that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being one of the people in and around Sir Alex Ferguson regime, he knows that Sir Alex Ferguson said it was a bad season for Manchester United being second in the league. So of course Manchester United be top 4, but you always have to ask yourself, what is the club it's all about? If you have an Ed Woodward who says, it's okay that I have a manager that I can kind of cooperate well with, I don't need that kind of Mourinho type of manager, then he can get another season even outside top 4. But I think that it's like in Colosseum, it's in the old times, it's a crowd who will decide the fate of the gladiators. You have to win games, you have to get trophies, and top 4 is not a trophy for a club like Manchester United.
Pogba's back, of course, Craig. People are saying, oh, but can, Bruno Fernandes and Pogba play in the same starting 11? Of course they can, can't they? It's not even a debate.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Pogba's played in some of the best teams in the world, including his country, have won the World Cup. So he's flexible, as is Fernandes. So it comes down to the manager. It's a basic thing. It's man management now. It's Pogba's fitness. Since the layoff, he didn't play, obviously, hardly played at all for months before that. And it's about how Solskjaer sees it. Listen, at the end of the day, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer won't be judged in whether he plays or doesn't play Paul Pogba. He'll be judged in whether he gets them into that European football. He'll be judged if he bridges the gap in the end to the boys at the top of the league. He's not going to be judged in whether Pogba plays or not. It's a sideshow. It's a side story. And it'll only be discussed in length if Man United lose. If Man United are winning games and they're going to get in that top 4, I don't think there's a United fan out there on this planet will give a stuff if Pogba plays or not, because that's not the end result for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And he'll do, I would imagine, what he thinks right to get the results.
It's a big call, though, isn't it, Jan? Reports suggesting that Pogba will not start in that game away against Spurs.
Which I think is fair, because you want to build on that wave you had before the lockdown. And I think that in modern football, whatever that means, I mean, the numbers, when I grew up in Norway, we were all about 4-5-1 or 4-4-2. If you see the great teams today, you're not talking about Bayern Munich and teams like you have no idea how they play. I mean, they will fit them in there, but you need to win football games. And if you win a game without Paul Pogba, they would say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a great leader who can still do it. He's a good manager because he can manage to do that without maybe his only world star. On the other hand, if he loses, then they will say, why didn't you find a way to get Pogba in there? I think it's all down to Pogba to try to find himself. He's been out now for a long, long time. It's time to show up. It's time for him, and I said that yesterday and I say it again, time to get out of this tattoo, hairdressing kind of show and try to be a football player. He's a reigning world champion. Try to be like one on the pitch as well.
But surely as a coach, Craig, it's up to Solskjaer to play him, isn't it? To try and get this system to work? Because Paul Pogba is a world-class player.
Well, it's up to Solskjaer to get results. And that's what he's paid to do. He's not paid to come in and mollycoddle any player. I get it. If you sign somebody for the amount of money that he's been signed for and the amount of money that you're paying him, of course, your board and your ownership would want to see value for money. But at the end of the day, the manager lives and dies by the teams he selects and the results he gets. And if he feels he's getting more out of other players at this moment in time, and we don't know what's been going on behind the scenes because we haven't been watching any team in the Premier League for 3 months. So we just don't know. It'll come out in the wash, Dan. As Jan said, if Pogba's sitting on his backside and United are losing, there'll be headlines. If Pogba's sitting on his backside and United are winning, Solskjaer will brush it off and say, I'm doing what's right for the team. It's quite simple, really.
A lot more, of course, throughout the week, looking ahead to the return of the Premier League. Be sure to go over to the website and check out Ian Darke's article talking about the expectations around those big sides as football returns to England.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.